This is just wrong. The reason we have buses and public transport is, first of all, to make it easier for people to get to work or to get to hospitals or to get to other places where they need to be as families. Number two, it's better for the environment. If you're on buses through public transport, it's less cars on the road. So that three, those who are on the road, who need to be on the road, have a less congested ride as well. Now, I don't know if you've been following events in recent days, but guess what? When it comes to buses, the Pope thinks public transport's good. The Pope thinks buses are good. We think buses are good. It's time the Liberal National Party thought buses were good. Okay? Now, this is, unfortunately, folks, just the entree. Tony Abbott is the main course when it comes to the cut in local services. Here we are 1 year into the Liberal National Party government here in Queensland, and you see very clearly the impact on the ground. 14,000 people losing their jobs, but it's not just their jobs. We also now see the physical cutback to services, like the cutback to bus services. It affects ordinary people in a very dramatic way. That's the entree. The main course is Mr. Abbott, Captain Positive, Field Marshal Negative, the bloke who spent the last 4 or 5 years of his political life being negative about anything and anybody until he got some market research saying he had to smile. Okay? I'm the new spontaneous Tony Abbott. Now, I don't think people are going to be fooled by that, because what's going to happen in our part of the world if Mr. Abbott's elected? Number one, we might be losing our bus services through what the Liberal National Party government does at a state level. But on top of that, if Mr. Abbott's elected, the Liberal National Party at a federal level will rip up the national broadband network from the ground. What have these guys got against transport and communications? I mean, is it something, they have a bad time at university or something? I don't know. But the bottom line is, we're out there building the house up, building new communication systems, bringing in new bus services like the 198, as we did some time ago. What did this mob do? They simply tear the house down. That's their political philosophy. And what's really tragic, but very clear about this debate now about the bus services, is that people now see it in black and white. It's not an idea that someone's talking about, it's physical and it's happening. When they look at the debate about broadband services, they hear the debate about what Abbott might do, but take them at their word. They're going to rip it up. That's what they say they're going to do. So if you're living in a poor area of Brisbane, or you're not living in the central business district of one of the major capital cities, guess what the Liberal National Party policy is for you? Bye broadband. Gone, okay? Just gone. Bye bus services. Gone, just gone. So it's not just at the local level. It is also at the national level that the Liberal National Party have one script, which is us having built up the house, they tear it down. Let me go to one other thing before we all head off into the wild blue yonder here and start talking to people in their houses. They will say, I've heard it from Abbott and I've heard it from Newman, that the reason for this is that there is a real unmanageable problem when it comes to public finance. Let me nail this on the head, once and for all. Number one, the global financial crisis hit everybody around the world. Number two, there are economies around the world which are entering their 5th year of recession. Number three, there are economies around the world who today have 25% unemployment. Unemployment in the Great Depression in Australia in the 1930s peaked at 32%. Economies in Europe are now on 25%, some of them, including big economies like Spain. Point number four, we learned from economic history. We said we shouldn't have mass unemployment. We should do what the lessons of the 1930s taught us to do. And that is, you borrow temporarily in order to keep the economy going. How do you do that? You modernise the schools, you build new libraries, you build new multi-purpose facilities, you fix the roads, you create new infrastructure which wasn't there before in order to create hundreds of thousands of jobs while the private economy is in trouble. The other lesson from the 1930s is that once the private economy recovers, that's when government starts to withdraw its borrowing. In our case, what's the report card? Number one, in this country, we have not entered recession once through the global financial crisis. The only major advanced economy to avoid going into recession. Number two, unemployment today is at 5.4%, average 11% in Europe. Number three, we have therefore avoided 500,000 Australians from going on to the unemployment scrap heap. Number four, on top of all of that, how have we managed to do it in terms of our temporary borrowings? Our temporary borrowings have reached their peak at 9.9% of the size of the economy. That's how it's measured around the world. So, put it in these terms. If your household is, say, earning $100,000 a year, and you've got a debt which is at 9.9%, it means you've got a loan of $9,900 against an economy which generates $100,000, your family economy, each year. If you were earning $100,000 a year and you had a debt of $9,900, guess what? I think you'd feel pretty good about things. If you're earning $200,000 a year and you are running a debt in your household of $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000, people would say, that's pretty good, that's pretty conservative. So Australia, the debt would run at $9,900 against $100,000 of earnings. If you happen to be in Europe, the average is $95,000 for every $100,000 that you earn as a family. If you're in America, it's about $85,000 for the $100,000 that you would earn as a family. If you're in Japan, it's about $180,000 for every $100,000 that you earn. This is Tony Abbott's big lie. It is an absolute big lie. We have one of the lowest debt to GDP ratios of any major economy in the world. Debt is measured as a proportion of the size of our economy. That's the only measure people use around the world. And the reason it's the only proper measure, because it measures how much money you've got to service your debt, like you and your households. And as for the budget deficit as a percentage of GDP, it again is one of the lowest in the world. So when you look at Tony Abbott, and you look at his first cousin up here, Commandant Campbell Newman, from the Liberal and National Party, what they say is, we've got to slash and burn all these government services because of the debt. I say to them, lie, lie, lie. And the whole purpose of our engagement in the political debate this year should be to rip the foundations from underneath them of the absolute falsehood upon which their entire political project is now based. Think about this finally. Let's just say in 2008 we took their advice, which was to sit on our hands and do nothing about the global financial crisis. They said they opposed the guarantees we gave to people's bank deposits and the guarantees we gave to people's banks. They opposed practically all of the economic stimulus that we made, including the modernisation program in all of the local schools you see here and throughout Australia. So what would have happened had we taken their advice? Let's just think about what the Liberal National Party script was for responding to the global financial crisis. Well, number one, because you took no action to keep the economy going, as a result, you would have generated another 500,000 unemployed, like you see in relative terms around the world. If you're running 10 or 11% unemployment, let me tell you, that's about another 500,000 people. Secondly, guess what? When people are unemployed, they don't pay tax. And so the revenues coming into the government fall through the floor. Number three, what else happens during a major recession like that? Hundreds of thousands of small businesses go to the wall. They don't pay tax either. Number four, all those people, formerly in small business and formerly in a job, then suddenly receive unemployment benefits. That costs the government on the expenditure side. So let's just carefully examine what the alternative script was and where it would have landed us. 500,000 people more unemployed, collapse in income tax receipts for the government, small businesses going to the wall, collapse in company tax receipts going to the government, and a ballooning in the cost to the government of unemployment benefits. Apart from the other side of their strategy, which was opposing guarantees to people's bank deposits. I don't know about you, but I haven't met a single Australian who said to me that on that October weekend in 2008, don't worry, my bank account's fine, we don't need your government guarantee for my bank account. I haven't heard anyone who said that. That weekend, people were scared to their back teeth, and they should have been if they saw what happened around the world. We took a decision. We acted. We'd read the economic history. We provided a guarantee for people's bank deposits. We provided a guarantee for the banks to continue their interbank lending around the world, with the sovereign guarantee of the Commonwealth of Australia to keep the arteries of credit going to small business. Why? So that people would stay in a job. That's why we did it. That was opposed by the Liberals. The bank guarantee for deposits was opposed by the Liberals. The stimulus measures I've just referred to were opposed by the Liberals. Let us think where this would have landed us. You would have had the real prospect of banks defaulting, people losing their deposits, the arteries of credit collapsing, small businesses folding by the hundreds of thousands because there would be no money simply to service their own ongoing bank credit needs, quite apart from the massive impact on unemployment overall. But against their measure, the only one they care about, which is, and what's the bottom line, what I'm saying to you is, collapsing tax revenues under their script, ballooning unemployment under their script, ballooning costs of unemployment benefits under their script, banks defaulting, people losing their deposits, the country would have gone into massive budget deficit under their program. And for them to suggest to the contrary is an assault on common sense. So the big lie about the Liberals and from the Liberals is this. They argue that our net debt for the size of our economy is too great. It's among the lowest in the world. Lie number two, that had we followed their script, that we would have avoided debt and deficit. Absolutely false, as the logic demonstrates. But why this is relevant to our discussion about the number 198 bus and the number 212 bus and the other bus services we're talking about today is that's the argument they give. And the argument is just plain wrong. So, therefore, our challenge is to argue the economic case at one level and to argue the case about our services on the other. And that, I think, is why we're going to prevail at this coming election.